Hello, 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 Transurfer and the Transurfing Curious. My name is Renee Garcia, and this is TransurfingTV. And today on TransurfingTV, hot dog, do I have a real humdinger for my haters? I've actually filmed this video a number of times and am back at the drawing board today. I hope this one sticks, but I've realized that there is going to be a buffet of things that I'm going to talk about that people could absolutely just rip apart and tear me to shreds as a human being. Oh my God, she's a bad person. But it's going to be good. It's going to be juicy. It's going to be hard hitting. I'm going to get in your face. It's going to be brutal for some of you. Taking accountability is an MF, man. I mean, it is really going to be one of those videos where the rubber meets the road. Are you going to pivot if you do not have what it is that you feel you deserve today? Or maybe you even need to just start feeling more deserving in your life and stop with the low self-worth and assuming that the lot you've been given is all there is, because I promise you, this is not the case. This is my journey from poverty psychology to becoming a spiritual capitalist. Hallelujah. Amen. I have seen it all from the very bottom dregs, bottom underbelly of reality, poverty mentality, struggling, suffering, overwhelmed by debt, 9th grade education, no skills, no real talents that were available to me yet, and crushing self-esteem, feeling as though I was always outside of it. Everyone was going towards goals and had jobs and were doing things that they felt good about and climbing up this ladder. And here I was into my mid and late 20s, just outside of it all. And how I then kind of started to get some stuff right, started to climb up out of that hole, but actually arrived to the most desperate and scary place I've ever been to, and this is having money and still suffering from poverty psychology, and then starting to get right with it and finding a powerful and meaningful connection with my higher power, my God, and using very distinct and clear signals and cues from my God and my world on how I could achieve higher paths to higher wealth and start the process of actually feeling good about myself and loving myself. I mean, it's been a miracle. So this is going to be a hard video for some of you. It's going to be a very deep dive into what money is from a metaphysical standpoint and why we're challenged so much by it, why it triggers us, why we feel as though some people are getting ahead and we just can't seem to get a leg up on doing human right, being a successful human being, and all the challenges and pitfalls of trying to ascend, why it seems as though, this matrix just keeps us in a place where we're mesmerized by these images that we see that we never quite are able to get our hands on. And I'm going to dissolve all that crap. I'm going to dissolve some of the code that the matrix has embedded in you, and maybe, just maybe, something in this video is going to come through. But before I really get into it, I'm going to ask you that your ego is going to attempt to hijack this moment. Money and our relationship to money and our worldview of the system as it exists and how we directly fuse to that matrix. This is your theory about yourself and your survival. And your ego is going to do absolutely everything it can to convince you that what it is that I'm saying is, oh, that's great, but she got lucky, or yeah, that might work for her, but I just have what it is that I have and I need to learn how to make do with it rather than try some stupid thing that she's talking about. Your ego is going to tell you all sorts of stuff about what it is that I'm saying today. And it's going to be your job, especially for those of you that are still challenged, still not feeling as though you are achieving that higher version of yourself, living optimally, having the things that you see other people having. This is going to be for the people that are still struggling with poverty mentality or suffering in some way that has to do with anything financial. So let it in, listen, tell your ego to take a back seat and get into this video. Listen to it twice. I'm gonna say a lot of stuff in this video, guys, including my story, which is gonna be thought-provoking, extreme. I'm not gonna hold anything back. I'm gonna tell you exactly how it has happened for me. And maybe, just maybe, there's something in here for you. Remember, before I get started, to like this video and comment below. My world is taking care of me. To win some of these stickers. These stickers, holy crap, I affirmed myself out of the freaking grave with these stickers. I don't know how something that I've created, such as a sticker, could hold so much power, but it has, and lots of people are benefiting from these worldwide. If you would like a stack, comment below, and you just might get some. We'll pull some names and send you some in the mail. All the links, the Facebook group, the courses, my book, A Tale of Practical Reality Transurfing, everything your little transurfing heart could desire, in the links below. Check it out. So one question that I want to ask before we really get into it: why do you feel, I'm so curious to hear everybody's thoughts on this. Why do you feel as though it's so taboo or gauche to marry the ideas of spirituality and wealth? The other day I was on Facebook and I saw some product that Eckhart Tolle was selling, and I don't know what it was. I didn't really pay attention to that, but the comments, the comments really caught my attention. Maybe you saw it too. They were essentially calling for like Eckhart Tolle to be dragged into the street and like burned at the stake because he was selling some spiritual course on something. And I thought to myself, who the hell cares? Like, why does anyone care if someone else is selling something that has to do with some spiritual or self-development that's based around some kind of godly idea? I mean, I don't care. But apparently this is a massive no-no. And I've even gotten it on this channel, people telling me that I shouldn't have this channel monetized, that this kind of information should be free, or I shouldn't sell courses. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Why do you feel that these two things should never be married? It really is a standard that's presented to us by pendulums, but kind of ambiguous as to the reasons why. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So, where I come from, what it's been like for me, I'm gonna start this video out with my story, and I'm not gonna hold anything back. It's going to be a doozy. This is going to be a long video, guys. I'm probably going to tell my story for about half an hour, and then I'm going to get into some of the massive points about restructuring your thoughts so you can achieve some higher wealth for yourself starting today. So, I was born poverty level. We grew up in a trailer park on the outskirts of a farming community. And virtually, if you don't know what it's like to grow up poverty, virtually everything that you could imagine about a poverty level of reality, I experienced, from the physical components of it, growing up in a trailer, cars getting repoed, trailer got foreclosed on, bankruptcies, lots of going without even some of the most basic things like braces, or wanting to do something extra in school and being told that we don't have the money. Really, my parents, God bless them, attempted to do their best, but had created a very serious and very bottom level of reality that just created more of the same. So there was the actual physical component of the poverty reality, but even worse was the mindset that wove us into the world and created this very toxic warp and weft of beliefs and ideals and opinions on money and people with money that confined us. I mean, it confined us. It cocooned us into this place where, as I grew up and tried to break free of this, I was often met with ideas voiced into the world that there was something wrong with me, or I was a bad person, or I wanted things that shouldn't be wanted, and primarily from my mother. But this created a very scared and anxiety-filled human being. I was intelligent enough and aware enough, I guess you could say, to sense that there was something outside of what it was that I had been born into. And I knew that I wanted something more, but I didn't have any access, and I didn't even know what that looked like. I just knew that what it was I was experiencing wasn't right. It wasn't right. There was no positivity flourishing there. I was never asked questions like, what do you want to be when you grow up? You can be anything. There was absolutely zero expressions from the adults in my life that not only there was something higher and better, but that I would be a person capable of doing something more. Growing up, and I will get into this a lot more deeply later in the video, growing up and into adulthood, we were sort of programmed in a way where the adults in our lives only showed us attention and love and care if we were succumbing to that poverty programming. And if we were attempting to do anything different, we were cast out. So this was a box. This was a small little prison cell that I had been born into, and I ventured out of that layer of reality very, very young. Total, I have 1 year of high school, one single year of high school. I didn't go to college, and I left. I went to the city. I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was just desperate by any means possible to see myself away from that struggling and suffering and always feeling outside of it all. Yet again, no methods, no means to get there, and no understanding of any of that yet. So in my desperation, what I did was I married someone that I perceived to have a little something. Looking back on it, it really wasn't much, but even just having a job, even just having a low-paying job, because I couldn't even get one for myself. I couldn't even get a minimum wage job at times. Absolutely no skills, no high school diploma, nothing. Nobody was interested in me. I was truly outside of it. So I married someone that had a job, and this person really saw the desperation to get out and the vulnerability that that created, and decided that this was the perfect victim. This was somebody virtually no one cared about and would tolerate and put up with anything. And for 5 years, I did. I experienced horrible domestic violence, psychological abuse, and financial abuse as well. As crazy as it seems, I married this person because he had a job. Shortly after we were married, he lost his job. And then for the duration of the marriage, I worked low-paying jobs to support us. And we ran ourselves into debt, massive, massive, massive debt, because we couldn't afford even the basic lifestyle that we were living. And 5 years in, the marriage imploded. And I was left on my own with all the debt, tens of thousands of dollars of debt in my name, and still no skills, no education, my self-esteem was even lower than ever before, simply because that 5 years I had been beaten down psychologically, that I wasn't worth anything, that I was undeserving, and all the things you could possibly imagine. It was level 0. It was level 1. And at 25 years old, I found myself alone. Now, I didn't have anything. I had a little apartment, couldn't even pay rent on, all the debt, nothing. I had nothing. I was going to a payphone at a gas station to call my parents collect. It was that bad. And I knew that this was my moment. This was my moment, that even though it was bad, I at least had the ability to try at that point. And luckily enough, I connected with something that later became a business for me, where I created a name for myself through a lot of hard work and time in and energy in. I'm going to get into that in a moment, exactly what it is that I did. But at least then I could start, if there was any chance of reversing the damage that had been done, at least then I could, with my own wherewithal and effort, try. And that's what I started to do. I was exposed to a lot of new information. I was living in Los Angeles, and there were wealthy people around, and people with careers and jobs and fancy cars and luxury stores and all this kind of stuff. And again, I felt terribly outside of it, really, really outside of it. And I was crippled with feelings of inadequacy and all this. How am I going to do this? I just didn't know. But I knew that in this exposure to these new variables, this new information, that there was a path somewhere somehow something could happen, and things did start to happen, and I exposed myself to some of these elements in my external environment. And after a period of time, I started to identify as a wealthy person. I mean, even though people said horrible things about me, even in my business. I remember once when I was in my office in downtown Los Angeles, I was taking the trash out and I walked past one of my jewelry associates' office, and I heard him say to another jeweler, "Oh, look at the white trash is taking the trash out," or something along those lines. And I was like, God damn, I really have got to start to separate from this avatar, from this person that has been created. And that's what I did. But what happened was that I went about doing this in absolutely all the wrong ways. I mean, it got dark and I went rogue. I went rogue. So about 4 years into my business, I realized that I didn't have the capital. I mean, I'd kind of known it all along, and I was really struggling and trying to get this business up and going because it was all I had. This is the jewelry business, by the way. I started working in a pawn shop and very quickly realized that there was another game being played behind the scenes than working $10 an hour putting stuff up on eBay. And I began to learn the trade. I finally went out on my own, but I didn't have the resources like everyone else did. This is a family business and generational money and all that kind of stuff, and I just didn't have it. So I toiled and really got in there and tried to use sheer will and force to get this thing up and going, and it just wouldn't go. I could survive, I could get by, but I was treading water. I wasn't really rising up. So that's when I had the bright idea to go to the strip club and start dancing for dollars and use that money to funnel directly into my business, which I could grow. And son of a bitch, it worked. But what happened as a product of me doing this very risky thing. On one hand, I'm attempting to develop a respectable name for myself in the business, which is a well-known business in Los Angeles. It's the second biggest jewelry district in the United States, and I was tied into an even bigger US and international jewelry scene. And here I am trying to climb up out of all the things that I thought about myself and things other people said about me, like the white trash is taking the trash out, that sort of stuff. And at the same time, I'm going to the strip club at night, moonlighting, attempting to get myself out of that dark hole. Now, I couldn't exactly deal psychologically with this with this dual sort of mind that I was having to navigate reality with. Businesswoman, respectable, and stripper, white trash, still base sort of activities. And this dualistic approach to my modus operandi was very hard for me to reconcile and navigate on a daily basis. So I did what most dancers do. I started to self-medicate and taking drugs and essentially just trying to cope with what it was that I had created for myself. There was lots of bad in these times, and there was lots of good. On one hand, I was doing what I absolutely needed to do with the skills that I had, with the only way that I could see myself out. I was taking that bull by the horns, and I was doing it. But again, I was damaging myself wildly. I was a godless person. I was spiritually, there was nothing there. I did lots of other things for money that were illegal and highly immoral, and I just didn't care. I didn't care. I was going to come up. I was going to get what's mine at all costs. And this damaged my soul. And it kept me in a place of feeling not good about myself. I didn't love myself. I didn't like myself. I didn't feel good about my life, about what it was that I was doing. But I was coming up financially, and it was working. And there were brief moments, like when I decided to get sober and sort of give up the self-medicating and attempt to learn how to cope with some stuff on my own. Things got a little bit better. I was urged by my sponsor at the time to develop a connection with my higher power. And at the time I was like, damn, this is so stupid. I don't want to do this. I don't believe in this crap. But she was like, nah, it can be anything. It can be anything. You just have to have a connection with something bigger than you, whatever it is. Just choose anything. And I was like, okay, I'm going to choose that my higher power is the universe, and the universe in its abundance of what it has to offer me. Something sort of in line with like, what we're studying here, the alternative space, law of attraction, that kind of thing. But I hadn't studied, or I really didn't know about any of this stuff at the time, but that's what I chose. And things started to improve a little bit. I had some incredible experiences and things that I got myself into in an attempt to start living a higher and better way. I bought a beautiful, almost brand new 43-foot sailing yacht for myself and moved on to this full time. I lived in Marina del Rey, and I started to rise up out of it. I was living the life. People would ask me how I was doing, and I'd be like, man, just living the dream, living the life. And I was. I had this beautiful sailboat, Antivassin, that I learned to sail single-handedly, completely on my own, a feat that has been a pivotal part of me building up my self-worth and my ability to achieve what not only I believe to be impossible, but others too. I'll get into that in a little bit. And I had this thriving business. I had a jewelry inventory. I had money in the bank. I had no debt, zero debt. I had a couple of really cool cars. I'd traveled the world. I was having a good time. But things were worse than they had ever been in my life. And this is, people would ask me, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? Most people knew that I wasn't educated, that I was sort of just getting out there and throwing elbows and doing what I could do, hustling and grinding and all that stuff. And people would ask me, what are you doing? And I would I hadn't found reality transurfing at this point, but I would essentially tell them the components of reality transurfing. I believe I can do it. I act in the direction, I think in the direction, I throw myself into environments where all these things are around me, and then I have to try to connect myself to these things by leveling up. Essentially, I was transurfing, but with one critical and crucial and very, very, like the biggest mistake that a human being can make when leveling up. I was making this mistake, and I was still existing with that poverty mindset. There is a reason why the rate of billionaires that commit suicide is so high. And I know what that hell is like. When people come to my channel and say, God, if I could just figure out a way to make money, it'll all fall into place. And I think, oh boy, I really hope that you do not make some money with that mentality, because that is where hell is. That is where hell is. When I was young, and let's take the example of coming out of the divorce and being on my own, I hadn't yet started to attempt to conform to standards and illusions that I was seeing in the external environment. I was just starting to see them. So for me, I got a waitressing job right out the gate. And for me, if I came home with $100 in my apron, I felt rich because I wasn't yet comparing it to anything. I was at ground zero. So $100 felt really good. I was like, damn, $100. How much groceries $100 could buy? It could put gas in my car. Didn't have a car at the time, but it could do so much for me. And then what happened was I started to really become hypnotized by the standards that my environment was presenting to me. And there was always not only something more to go after, but that going after something more. So let's say I got the idea that I had to have $10,000 in my bank account. So when I got to the $10,000, then I would get this idea that $10,000 really wasn't worth very much. It wasn't that meaningful in regards to savings, that I needed to go for the 100. So it wasn't that I arrived at $100,000 and felt good about it, because then there was something else. So like arriving to that 10,000 and realizing that, wow, 10,000 actually isn't that much. I need to go for 100. It wasn't that I was no longer focused on that 10. I was then focused on the difference between the 10 and the 100, which was the 90. And that became a point of obsession. And I was just bathing in this pool of want and desire and feeling as though I just had to have that extra 90. And then I would hit the 100, and then it was like, oh, well, now you've got to go for the million. Oh my God. Well, that's $900,000. I'm really inadequate then. So there was always a downward and negative focus on what was not there, and putting myself into the exact environments that I felt was going to help me and achieve these higher paths of wealth actually connected me with all the things that were lacking. And it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. So what happened was this created tremendous distress for me psychologically, because when I was young and when I didn't have anything, I had convinced myself that only if I could make some money, I could allow myself to be happy. Only when I can have some money in the bank, I can feel whole. I can feel good about myself. I can love myself. This was a carrot off in the distance, and this carrot was loaded up with everything: comfort, self-worth, self-esteem, feelings of being successful, everything. It was loaded up with everything. Well, the little bunny caught the carrot, but the carrot didn't hold any of that stuff. And the confusion and the distress that this created psychologically for me, and at the time, I didn't know any of what I'm talking about now. None of this was clear to me. It was just a massively confused state of how in the hell did I work this much and demean myself, put myself into situations where I allowed others to mistreat me, and really just put myself through absolute hell, working long hours, doing all these things to try to come up. And I finally get the carrot in my hand. And not only do I not feel good, and I don't feel that love that I thought for myself, that I wanted for myself, I feel worse than that. This was so unbelievably unsettling that it created an anxiety condition and a constant existential crisis that I could not wrap my head around. And this part of my story, when I caught the carrot and was living the dream, but it was in actuality a garish Californian nightmare. This is when it just absolutely began to crumble. The soul essence of the character that I had become was rotten. I was a rotten person. My beliefs, my belief system, my beliefs about my world, my beliefs about myself, no self-love. There was negative self-love. I hated myself. I hated my world, and I had made a monumental mess of things and my life. And towards the end of my near 15-year stint in LA, as I was going through an absolute nervous breakdown, entirely alone, people had either gone away from Los Angeles because of the vapid cesspool that it is, or people didn't want to have anything to do with me, or I pushed higher people away. But all of these various circumstances to become an isolated character, everything fell into place perfectly. And I was alone entirely. I had a gorgeous 2-bedroom, 2-bath, stunning Venice apartment. I had a brand new 5 Series BMW in the driveway, money in the bank, an awesome inventory, a really good name for myself in the jewelry business. But I was alone, I was broken, and I was absolutely spiraling out of control. And again, I found myself outside of it all. I was outside of it. I was just outside of it in a different way. I would walk down to the Whole Foods grocery store and I would sit outside just so I could be around people. Just so I could be around people and look at people's lives, people with kids, people in relationships, holding hands, people that looked happy. And again, I was just this lost outlier, an outlier. And it was at this point that I broke entirely. I broke entirely, and I realized that I had gotten it all horribly, horribly wrong. That base, demoralizing existence that I had lived to attempt to get myself out of a deep, dark abyss had actually just plunged me even deeper into an even darker one. I kind of envision it like quicksand. The more you fight to get out, the more you bury yourself. And this is what happened for me. So this was my pivot point. I left LA. I sold it all. I left my business as I had been operating it. I left the life I had been building for years. I left it all. And I retreated up to the Pacific Northwest to go and stay with my grandparents in the forest and just kind of go on a sabbatical with an unknown destination. I just knew, the one thing that I did know is that I had gotten it entirely wrong. So something came through at that time that it wasn't going to come from me. The answer, the new path, the ways away from the hell that I had created for myself, it wasn't going to come from me. And for the first time in my life, I started to pray. And coming from being, one, as godless as I was, but two, my mother had become a born-again Christian in my late teens, maybe I was like 15 or 16 years old, and just started to cram this crap down our throats every day to the point where it was like the Carrie movie. I mean, it was pretty wild, pretty extreme. And I really resisted anything that had to do with the concept of God or a higher power. As my story with, getting sober shows, I had extreme resistance against anything having to do with something higher than me. And I believe that it was exactly this, why I had created this system in which had caused so much suffering. But something came in and I knew that I had to start asking. And I prayed, God, just show me something, anything. I promise you, if you show me something, I'll listen. And shortly after that, Reality Transurfing came to my layer of reality, and I listened. And when I listened, I immediately knew that this was my golden ticket out. This was my golden ticket out. It created an environment where I could stop judging myself. I could learn that there are infinite, I learned there's infinite realities, that the one that I had created was simply an exact product of what my thoughts and actions and beliefs had created. So there was this profound accountability that transpired, and I knew that I had created that reality. But of course, I didn't know what else to do then. I didn't know how I was going to dissolve 35 years of faulty programming and toxic beliefs and this matrix of misinformation, really, that had cocooned me in the world in a way where everything was prickly and uncomfortable and scary. And, you know, right at my darkest time, the 25th hour, dark night of the soul, I realized that I could affirm my way out of the grave. I mean, I know this sounds extreme and it sounds a little bit dramatic, but this is the reality that I had to walk through. It's like the only way out is through, right? So I created this mantra: my world's taking care of me. Everything is going according to plan. Things are working out beautifully and will continue to do so with ease. My God, this was the antithesis of everything that I believed. This was the opposite of my thoughts. My thoughts were, my world's destroying me. Everything's going to hell. Things are not working out and they never ever will. And everything is hard and everything's a struggle and everything's scary. So I created this mantra and I wrote it out on some basic labels and I stuck it around my grandparents' house. And I started to affirm myself up out of that level 0, that level 1, and used the transurfing knowledge to as a ladder to get myself out. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys. This has not been, now I had instant feelings of feeling better in my mind. In fact, there were moments where I was entirely high on life just at the prospect of there being something higher and better. There were moments where I was like, damn, I would go sit at a park and just watch people and my thoughts were on the present moment or positive things in front of me, not looking at all that I wasn't and all that the world wasn't and all that I was getting wrong and all that others were getting and not me. I was liberated. I was liberated for the first time in my life. And I knew that it was in this place that the answers for how to get myself along in life in a new direction were going to come, but it wasn't going to be from within. It wasn't going to be from within. It was going to be just like Reality Transurfing had come to me. It was going to be an extension from my higher power, from my God to me. And it was then on me to not only be in a place of awareness to where I could see the thing, but then me answering that call and actually doing what was necessary for me to get out and level up and get right with myself and the world. So maybe this video is that for you, but are you in a place to, one, acknowledge that the way that you're doing things right now are not working for you, and then 2, start to take higher and better actions for yourself and heal yourself. So again, not going to lie to you, it's not like it was a overnight sort of deal. I started to feel better, but there was a long road ahead of me. I had damaged myself and abused myself and allowed others to abuse me. in some ways that had created a lot of trauma. And there was a long road in front of me of getting my thoughts right, making higher and better choices about the people that I allowed into my life, letting go of certain people in my life that were attempting to hold me back, and starting to take action in new directions and listen to the things that were being extended to me by my world, my higher power, the God of plenty, the alternative space, however you want to connect with that external force. And it's been 8 years now, 8 years, maybe almost 9. But today, I have healed myself. I love myself. Coming from where I've been, virtually everyone in my life telling me in words and actions that I wasn't worth much, that I wasn't gonna do anything in this world, but even if I started to a little bit, I was gonna be smacked down because I was a bad person for wanting something higher and better. I mean, when I started my business, I had been operating it for maybe about 5 years, started to feel successful and like I was doing something well. And even my mom, who was a massive source of these toxic beliefs about money and myself, here it is, I'm doing it. I'm evolving out of this place that is so challenging to come out of, and I'm feeling good about myself. I'm feeling a little bit of pride that I'm doing it, and here my mom is throwing shade at me because jewelry's superficial and the women that want it are bad people and you're a bad person for selling it to them. And that whole thing that you've created for yourself is just a nasty, gross little thing. And it hurt me. It hurt me because not only did I realize that I wasn't going to get any credit, but I also realized that in order to truly detach from that character that had been built up by that environment, I was going to have to separate emotionally because I was always going to be pulled back down to this place of, if you want anything better for yourself, you're a bad person and you're selfish and you're this and you're that. So it's taken me a lot to get here. It has taken me an absolute tremendous renovation of mind, spirit, cleansing my layer of reality of the people that don't agree with this higher version of me. And it's taken me 9 years. But today, 8, 9 years, today, I have achieved absolutely every goal that I have created for myself financially. 0 debt. I've got properties. I own this beautiful, nice, big, luxurious house in Tbilisi, Georgia. Never have to worry about a rent payment or a mortgage ever again. I've got my paths of wealth. I've got time creatively. I've got freedom. I'm able to, at the drop of a hat, sell it all in the US and move to a foreign country because I want to go on an adventure. And this is a product of me working with my God. This is a product of me taking accountability and saying to myself, the gig's up. No longer, my thought system is no longer working for me, and God, I'm here for something higher and better. So that is my poverty to pivoting moment, to my present moment, and all the nitty-gritty that has gotten me here. But I can honestly say, and this is the reason that I'm doing this video today, I've arrived. I have arrived. Yet I know so much more of the journey is in front of me, and it's all good. It is all good. So now I'm going to get into the fundamentals of money. What money is, why it triggers us, survival mode, poverty mentality, and I'm just going to rip through a bunch of stuff that hopefully begins to dissolve some of that code within you that the matrix has embedded without you being aware of it. Or maybe you are aware of it and you just have kind of let it happen. So what money is exactly from a metaphysical standpoint? Money is a culmination. It is condensed energy in the physical form in material reality, in our material world. So when you do something, let's take manual labor, for example, if somebody pays you $5 to dig a hole, that energy that you're using is creating that $5. Or thought energy creates money as well. The higher the idea and the execution of that idea with your physical movements, this creates money. So what we strive to do as metaphysical mavericks trying to create a little more wealth in our lives is we consider the ways in which we can be the most efficient and effective with our energy. Even an investment, you've already created the money. Let's say you want to invest $100. You've created that energetic force there, the $100, and you are going to wage that against an investment in hopes that it creates even more. So we can do this with our own money, we can do this with our physical labor, and we can do this with our thought energy. So it is power. It is power, because those that can get the most creative and do this formula right for creating wealth via the most minimal amount of thoughts and energy. That's why paths of income that are automatic are so alluring to us as humans, because we're like, that sounds great. I don't have to do anything and money just comes in. So this is where we want to arrive as humans, if this is calling to you, if you're an entrepreneur, of getting automatic paths to wealth. So the idea is that you try to maximize your energetic resources to the extent where you're putting in as little as possible to get as much as possible. These are automatic streams of income. These are rental properties. This is a system that you build with your thought energy and your physical energy to create something that continues to pay long term. This is the ideal. What happens is human beings attempt to circumvent this. They try to get around it and take shortcuts. This is cheating people or lying to people or selling something that doesn't work or selling something that is ineffective. This is anything that you can think of in this world that bad people do for money. This is it. This is using parts of yourself, like my story, ways in which we operate in this world where there is some sort of shortcut, but there is a bigger price to pay when you don't feel good about what it is that you're doing. So the idea is obviously to attempt to create paths of wealth that are deemed healthy, and it's God. I mean, I really don't want to come off as sounding like a zealot here, but it's God that's going to connect us with these higher paths, and it's the ego and the self that are going to try to circumvent that and go about doing things in ways that are damaging to ourselves, self and others. So why does it trigger us so much? Why does money trigger us so much? Money triggers us because it is directly connected to the level, the outward display to our world at our rate of survival, our quality of survival. We are putting so much emphasis and value within this matrix of ideas of you're only doing human right if you've got X, Y, and Z, and you need to show the other humans in your life that you are doing human right. And if you don't, so let's say your poverty level right now, you're sitting on level 0, level 1, and you're struggling and you're suffering, your self-esteem is going to be in the dumps because you feel as though you are not doing human right. Now, what happens is your ego is going to go about telling you that it's not your fault, that it's the world's fault and it's other people's fault, and it's going to attempt to divert accountability. And this is the trap. This is the exact trap. And this is where I lived for a very, very long time until I realized that the way out is stopping with the blame and stopping with the demonizing of the world and money and people with money and having negative thoughts about money or trying to make excuses of why someone can have something but not you. So demonizing money, I see a lot of it in this community, and it's really fascinating to me that this sort of behavior goes on completely unchecked in a community of people that are reading about things that is telling you if you are demonizing anything, you are buying that version of reality at full retail price with interest. So what I mean by this, I have a friend, and my friend, God bless him, he is a conflicted and tormented fellow. He cries about the greed of Wall Street, the greed of the US, the billionaires, the Elon Musk, the evilness of these people, the evilness of their greed. Yet he strives and toils, attempting to make money and never really gets ahead. He gambles whatever it is he manages to make on things like the stock market, even though he talks negatively about it, and loses it all. And he just tries to whatever extent to get ahead and become wealthy, while at the same time crying out to the world of how evil money is. And it amazes me. I've never said anything to him about it, but really what I want to say is, dude, on one hand, you are begging, not even asking, but begging money to come in closer to you. And at the same time, you are putting up your hand or even a fist, and you are crying a battle cry of how ugly money and wealth is. There is absolutely no way he is ever going to achieve wealth in this place. He won't. He never, ever, ever will. And, you know, the Bible, my cup overfloweth. Man, if I could bring the Bible down to one simple statement, one point to take and run with, it's to exist in a place in this current moment of space and time and feel as though, regardless of the circumstances, your cup overfloweth. regardless of what it is that you have, your cup overfloweth. Regardless of you not knowing where you're going to make your next money or how it's all going to play out, that you have plenty and it's all coming in your direction. That cup half full. Watch my video, You Can't Expand Out of Lack. It is talking about exactly this. There is nowhere to go when you're doing this. There is nowhere to go when you are crying against wealth and hating money and demonizing people with money. My God, I went through years of that with my family, and thank God I had the wherewithal to see myself through. So demonizing money and being cautious of being around others that are doing this too, and you buying into this sort of thing. The online world, our virtual world, is every single day attempting to get us to fall in line with these ideas. And it's a trap, y'all. It's a trap, and it's keeping you stuck. I promise you that. So focusing on the negative is not the way to do it. It's not the way to do it. You're never going to expand out of lack. But the reason that this happens and the reason that we fall so easily into this mode, I mean, this is the exact reason why the majority of the world is in poverty and the majority of the world is poor, is because instinctually we are programmed as humans to focus on the negative. We would not have evolved as a species if we were always like, oh, look at the beautiful butterfly. My world's taking care of me. We were in survival mode. So the winter is coming. We've got to make sure that we collect enough berries or kill enough bears because the other tribe may get it. And then if we don't have it, we're going to die. We needed to adopt this perspective if we were going to survive. And we did, and we did, and we did so to success. Our survival as a species. However, modern day human, we don't need to kill the bear for winter. And there are enough berries in the world that we can all have some. There's enough, there's plenty. There are so many resources in this world that everyone, and we can generate more. That's the crazy part. We can generate more, but the majority of the world doesn't see the world from this perspective. And without awareness, it's like the Deepak Chopra saying, create your own reality or one will be created for you. Most people are just taking that prepackaged reality that includes that evolving human mentality of lack for survival. So the majority of the population sees this, and a small percentage of people are smart enough to look away. This is a very, very challenging and uncomfortable process to make your permanent state. You have to be systematic and methodical, right? This is why I created things like this. As simple as this thing is, it reminds me of what I'm programmed to do and what I need to do and what I need to develop to evolve myself. And it's not easy. It's not easy. There are still mornings that I wake up and I am in caveman brain. I'm not going to lie to you. I think many of the people in this space absolutely will lie to you and tell you that there is a world where you never have to have anxiety about money ever again, and you never have to feel scared about your financial future. And it's bull. It's absolute bull. You are a human being. You are programmed to focus on the lack. And either you buy that version of reality at full retail price, or you choose another one, but you are going to have to work against that program indefinitely, but you can do it. And when I wake up in the morning and see myself being caveman Renee, I don't give into this version. I acknowledge it for what it is. It's that prepackaged reality. It's the thing that helped me even be here in this moment today. But I have another choice, and I divert. So, what I'm going to extend to you: do not allow yourself to think any negative thoughts about money. Do not allow yourself to think any negative thoughts about people with money. Do not allow yourself to think that any means to achieve money is going to be hard, they're limited in nature, they're reserved for other people. You have the ability to access it, but caveman brain is not going to take you there. You've got to choose another system. So this is exactly why, we focus on the negative, and it's our instinctual drive, and why the majority of the planet is poor. So the two things that we strive for, again, survival and being right in our theory, and money and survival are like this. So this is why most of us are so messed up about money, and why most of our egos are so overly involved on the topic that we can feel stuck for our entire lives forever and never find our way out. I mean, I know I've got family members that will probably never evolve out of their state of being or their mindset about money. But we can do it if we choose a new theory and we understand that this is just the most commonly purchased one. We have another option. So now I'm going to get into what it is that I have done specifically. This is going to be actionable steps for you that you can take or leave. This is what I've done. And again, I didn't have much to go on. I had to really dive deep into what my resources were. When I came out of that divorce, I didn't feel like I had much. I knew that I could learn things quickly, and that I was fairly clever, and that I had an incredible work ethic, which I had never quite connected with. So this was my deep dive into what I could use at the onset of this evolution out of this hole. And it wasn't until I gave up and let my God into my layer of reality that I started to become connected with higher resources, like my ability to talk to you guys and to teach transurfing, or to do other things in my life that I once not only didn't feel that I could do, but didn't even know was an option available to me. So I would challenge someone right now to look deep within and type in the comments below, that you don't have anything, that you're resourceless, that you don't have any resources at all. We all have something. Either you're a natural born teacher, or you have a talent, or you can play an instrument, or you're an artist, or you got incredible compassion towards people, or there is some sort of resource inside of you right now that you can maximize starting today and at least get the ball rolling in a new direction. I really honestly do believe this. I hope you believe it too. So what I did to evolve, first of all, I gave up on that downward and back thinking, that caveman mind, that things were reserved for others and they weren't intended for me, or focusing on all that I didn't have, don't have, things that I can't do, the problems with life, the problems with myself, things that I've done wrong, things that I can't figure out how to do right, and focusing intently on that. This is downward and back thinking. Oh, I don't have any money right now. Oh, I never will. Oh, I've just messed everything up. I don't know where to start. Oh, he has more than me. Oh, she's doing this better than I can do it. I can never, all that kind of thinking. Again, programming yourself out of that and beginning what I call forward and up thinking. Forward and up thinking. This is what I can do right now, what I'm capable of right now, what I am doing well, what my world is extending to me that I can use, how the things in my environment are supporting me, all the things that I can use that are positive, all the parts of my mind that are going to help me get up to this new version of reality, this positive flow of information, because as we as transurfers know, there's evidence to support all theories. There's an infinite abundance of information and evidence and all kinds of confirmation to any theory that we can create as a human. So if I choose this forward and upward thinking, I'm going to evolve. My world, my God wants the best for me. I'm going to connect with this. My God, this is going to flow into my reality, and it's my job to focus on that stuff and forget about the other stuff. Because as soon as you start doing that, nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. So forward and upward thinking. And I had to get radical. If you didn't watch my video, Audacious Delusion, go back and take a look at that. This is where I started to identify as a wealthy person, even though I had nothing, even though I had absolutely nothing. I started to identify as somebody that held wealth. And I had to get radical. And a lot of people in my life at the time were like, well, who the hell do you think you are? Oh, Renee's high up on her horse again. All this negative feedback from my external environment telling me that I wasn't deserving or I was delusional. And I stuck with it. And it, long term, it absolutely paid off. So audacious delusion that I hold the innate ability to have it all, to be wealthy, to be the creator of my own reality, to find those higher pathways to wealth where I can actually feel good about myself. Man, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Anomalous action. Look at the video on anomalous action. If you're in a reality rut right now, you don't know what to do, everything's monotonous, you don't see any new pathways, you don't have access to any new opportunities. This is because you have carved out a rut in your reality and you're just sitting in that rut, kind of doing that thing, caveman mind, or just resigning to that's your lot in life. It's not. You can do anything you want. You can do anything you want. So anomalous action is what I use to fuse me to these new opportunities that are presented to my world, because the opportunities will come to you if you stir up your layer of reality by taking anomalous action. But what happens is we become frozen. We don't know how to take action. We don't know, we feel uncomfortable with taking a step outside of what's normal. So anomalous action is essentially training yourself to take a step in a new direction towards whatever your world or your God is presenting to you, and fusing yourself to that opportunity, writing it to a higher version of reality. But without training what I call your action muscle, you're going to maybe be presented with opportunities, but you'll just sit on the sidelines saying, oh, you know, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. I mean, this channel, as crazy as this sounds, there's 1,000 videos on this channel. I have an entire body of work of videos and courses and all different kinds of educational materials, a Facebook group with 10,000 people. This is all accomplished via anomalous action. When I first got into reality transurfing and I started the community, we didn't have any courses. We had a Facebook group and I started to do a couple videos on YouTube, and people were messaging me. They were saying, hey, do you got any courses? Do you got any courses? Now, this was my world saying, hey, there's something here for you to create. I didn't think to myself, no, I can't do that. I don't know the first thing about making a course. What would I say? What would I do? I don't know what to do. That's for other people. That's not for me. I answered that call and I began making courses, and they started selling like mad. I mean, it was a miracle. But what happened was that call came in and I answered it and I went forward with it. And it was me training myself to take action on these things that allowed that to happen in the first place. Same with this channel. Somebody actually challenged me, hey, put some videos on YouTube. And I did it. And sure enough, I actually learned that I liked it and I enjoyed it. And now we got 1,000 videos on this channel. So it's pretty amazing. So audacious delusion, anomalous action, and I never, ever, ever stop, y'all. I never stop. Even moving halfway across the world to a foreign landscape, starting everything entirely new, 44 years old, you know, throwing it all away in the US and moving here. I'll admit, it spun me out for a minute. There was a good 2 months where I couldn't make sense of up from down, but I gained my bearings. I started to make sense of my variables. And sure enough, you know, I got back up on my horse and I started doing deals in this reality and things started to pop off. So I never, ever, ever stop. I don't get to another level and say, okay, I'm just going to resign to this level. There's always a higher level. There's always a higher level. So never, ever, ever stop. I'm going to now suggest that you begin to define what wealth means for you personally. My story, that suffering and turmoil and self-hatred and really nasty, critical thinking of myself, and that poverty mentality that I existed in for so long really was a product of me attempting to go after standards of wealth that was created by my environment, not me. And that's why when my world was like, hey, you need to make this, or the Matrix, hey, you need to make this, and then I'd make that and it wouldn't satisfy me and there was no meaning there. And then it would say, hey, you need to now make this, and I would go after that and I would make that, and then it was meaningless and I felt like, what the hell? I can never I can never be happy? Is that real? Can I legitimately can go after all these things and get them only to feel emptiness? So this was me adhering to the standards set by my world. And as I went through this process, things got worse and worse and worse because I was more and more and more confused about money, my relationship to it, and what wealth actually meant for me. So I don't need the 401k. I don't have a 401k, but I have other investments. I have my rental incomes, which are going to bring me a nice little residual that's going to pay for my later years in life. I have a beautiful house that's paid for. I never have to pay rent or a mortgage ever again. I got my savings. I got my jewels. I got the things that I use to help me to feel wealthy. And again, my cup overfloweth. These elements of my perception of wealth helping me to feel wealthy, this is what creates more of it. So maybe for you, wealth for you today isn't about going after the $1 million. Maybe it's just getting your rent paid and saving up $1,000. Letting go of that idea that the Matrix is presenting to you, which is keeping you feeling poor. The other day, some dipshit came on this channel and he's like, "What color is your Bugatti?" I didn't even know what that meant because I didn't know who Andrew Tate is. I don't really focus on people like that. I had to actually ask the admins, what does this mean? What color is your Bugatti? And they had to explain it to me. But he stepped to me like, where's your Bugatti? And I thought to myself, dude, I don't buy depreciating assets. Are you nuts? And it's your hypnotic connection with that standard as it has been created to keep you in a place of feeling bad about yourself that's keeping you poor. Because I promise that I have more than that guy. Yet he's going to come to Transurfing and to TransurfingTV and try to kick a hole in my tent because I'm not adhering to the same standard that is keeping him down. But I've created my own standards, which don't include a Bugatti. And here I am ascending and evolving to my version of wealth and comfort and freedom. I have spent 5 days attempting to film this video. The first day, I didn't like how the lesson was structured. I filmed it 2 or 3 times from start to finish, 90 minutes, 2 hours. The next day, my mic was messed up. The next day, there was construction going on outside and I thought that the mic wouldn't pick it up, but it did. The next day, I figured out some more talking points that I wanted to make. And today, this is my 5th day trying to film this video. This is my idea of wealth. My ability to immerse myself in a creative endeavor that ultimately has nothing to do with a financial gain. YouTube might pay me 20 or 40 bucks for this video, but really this is simply going to be a contribution to my body of work that helps me to feel like a rich person, not just financial wealth, but rich in it all, my spirit, my soul, me living the highest version of myself, freedom, creative ability, treasures, the things that I have worth something in this world. This is my version of wealth, and this is what helps me to feel like my cup overfloweth. So what would help you to feel like your cup overfloweth today? And how can you immerse yourself in that sensation and get away from the toxic Bugatti illusion that's just leading people to even greater levels of poverty, keeping them distracted. Oh my God, it's so freaking gross. So what I see today, obviously beating a dead horse here, hustle grind culture, inner intention, pendulum standards, the rules, the matrix, and I'm going to get into rules towards the end of this video and how exactly I break some pretty big societal rules in my paths to wealth, and all the lies that we are told to attempt to convince us that we can circumnavigate what it is we actually need to do to make money in this world. I saw an ad the other day. This guy was like, hey, I make $300,000 a month selling this thing that you need to buy. Because if you buy it, you can make $300,000 a month too. I'm thinking, dude, if you were making $300,000 a month, you wouldn't need to be making YouTube videos. I guarantee that you're not making $300,000. I don't know, maybe he is. Maybe I'm wrong. I could totally be wrong. But it's in this illusion that we are constantly sold something that you don't need to put in the hours, that there's a shortcut. And let me say this, there are lots and lots and lots of shortcuts. I call them candy bridges. I call them cracks in the matrix. You can go back and take a look at those videos, but they definitely aren't for sale. They're not things that people are going to be selling you, because let's face it, if you could create your kingdom by buying a product for $39.99, everybody in this world would have it. Now, I have courses for sale on this channel. I've got lots of stuff for sale, but I will be the first to tell you that you don't need to buy any of it. You can do it all yourself. I have done this all myself. The only reason why I actually have the courses in the first place is because people asked for them. So I answered that call, but I believe it's way more valuable for you to actually figure it out on your own. Most people aren't going to tell you that. They're going to try to sell you something instead. So what is the way out? This is where the rubber meets the road. My way out was the reality transurfing concepts, goals and doors, heart and mind, pendulums, the alternative space, the alternatives flow. This is where I found God. I found God. I connected with the voice of my higher power, something bigger than me, my higher self. I was shown an image of myself, off in the distance, a higher version of me. And I saw that higher version of me, and my higher power was like, you want this? And I was like, yeah, I want that. And bitch, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. And I have, from that moment that I dedicated myself and made the commitment to pivot every single day along the way, from that moment until now, have gotten here. So outer intention slides, all the reality transurfing concepts. Don't tell yourself it's hard. It's not hard. It's not hard. It's only as hard as you convince yourself that it is. You can do this. I did it. I have a 9th grade education. So if I can dive in to this vast body of information that does seem quite dense, you can do it too. Lots of resources on this channel, and get to know the concepts. The 3 laws of spiritual capitalism, as I have defined them for myself. And maybe these are things for you. Maybe they're not. Maybe you want to adopt your own, but these are mine. Number 1, work for yourself. Now, this isn't going to be for people that love their job the way that they currently are experiencing it. Maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're a firefighter, maybe you're a nurse, and you're in love with your calling. Maybe you just want to create a little side hustle to get yourself something for the future, and maybe becoming a full-time entrepreneur isn't exactly for you. But for those of you that do not like what it is that you have in regards to how you use your thought energy and your physical energy, being a laborer of some type or doing something for somebody else's pendulum, this is going to be for you. Set the intention to work for yourself in this world, make your own pendulum and feed your own pendulum, and figure out crafty ways in which you can have others help you to realize your goal while it also benefits them. This is where it's at. This is the formula. This is the formula. Now that can take on many, many different tones, but this is where it's at. Second, the flow knows best. The flow knows best simply means to remove yourself from yourself and connect to the higher good that your world presents to you, the higher pathways. In my teachings, some of you may remember when I had my whiteboard, I would draw that river, right? The river, the currents of reality flowing through the river, and how we essentially clutch on to a rock in the river, not wanting to release ourselves into the flow because we're scared of where the flow goes, or we don't believe or trust that there are higher variations downstream. But learning to let go of that rock, it could be a person, it could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be the country you live, it could be whatever it is, learning to let go and trust the alternatives flow, higher good, higher power, God, whatever it is. This is where it's at. And 3, this is where it's going to get a little bit edgy, guys. Things that I am currently doing for money and things that I have done for money recently. I have broken lots and lots and lots of rules, and I have pissed off a lot of people. I am a button pusher. I am a fire starter. If there is a big red button saying don't push, I walk directly over to it and I push it. This is my character now, and this behavior is making me money. This behavior is making me money, but I am having to circumvent the standards that my environment is telling me I should adhere to. I'm doing some edgy stuff. So first off, one of the things that I've done lately for money is I took this opportunity that was extended to me by my world. I bought a number of items from who is considered to be the best jeweler in the world. I bought a number of items from him, and against his wishes, I sold them to women that did not have access to them the same ways that I did for more money. And this made him very, very angry, the jeweler. But was I doing anything wrong? Was I hurting anybody? Or was his ego simply challenged? Was he butthurt? Because I could get more for the items than him. So blacklisted by him. Blacklisted by Vadim. I'll admit it. I hijacked Reality Transurfing from Vadim Zeland. But when I asked my God if this was okay to do this, my God said to me, it's better in your hands than it is in his. So you know what? I don't feel bad about it. I'm the one actually at the front of the line giving the lessons to those finding this modality and this body of knowledge. He brought it so far, and it was given to me this opportunity to take it from here. Now, I will do this as long as I feel called to do it, But in this context, and I have a lot of people that come to this channel and say things like, you've stolen this thing from Vadim Zeland. Is it hurting anyone that I'm doing this? Vadim Zeland included. I'm promoting his book for the last 8 years of my life. He's gotten free promotion. So I'm not feeling bad about it. I hijacked it and I feel good about it. Right now, I'm doing some real estate stuff in Tbilisi, Georgia, where a local politician and attorney have been hypnotized by what it is that I'm doing, to the extent that they are crying out for me to essentially be burned at the stake publicly. I've had some videos put of me online saying some things about me, not adhering to the standards of the matrix as it's set up here. People don't know what to make of me. And I'm being called out yet again. But am I actually hurting anyone? No, quite the contrary. I'm just defying the codes of conduct and the standards as they have been set up. And this angers people and agitates those that are adhering to those standards. But I'm not hurting anybody. I'm simply setting the rules for my life. So I throw what it is that I want to do out into the world. And if my God says it's a green light, it's a green light. You can do anything you want as long as you do not hurt another person. Keep that in mind, and my God, the paths to higher wealth will open before you. So what would make your life feel as though it is a feast today? Getting back to your cup overfloweth. How can you define a reality for yourself that feels as though life is a feast? This is going to start by you stating to yourself, this is what life would feel like if it were a feast. This is what would make my life feel as though it's a feast. Every night before I go to bed, I run through my mind of what it is that I have that makes my life feel as though it is an absolute feast. I've got transurfing, I've got real estate, I've got all these higher things that my world is showing me that I can do that's in line with who I am as a human being. And answering those calls is what makes life feel as though it is an absolute feast. This is where you're going to create comfort and value for your life and yourself. So, after saying all this, I'm sure that some of you could say, God, Renee, you know, this all sounds great, but I still don't know what to do. I still don't know what to do. And I get that. I totally get that, because if I had found this video when I was whatever, in my 20s and my 30s, when I found transurfing, if I had found this video, I would have been like, man, okay, what next? If you don't know what to do, can you trust that it's out there, that something for you is out there? And if you can quiet that voice within, you might actually be able to see it when it comes, and let it happen. Let it actually happen in your life. Now, this doesn't mean sitting on your ass and waiting for inspiration. I hate the word inspiration. I hate the word abundance, because abundance just kind of signifies more. I want abundance in my life. I want more. I want more. I want more. No, define that for yourself. And I don't like the word inspiration because, again, ambiguous, and it's just like, oh, I'm going to wait to be inspired. Inspire yourself. Inspire yourself. Stir up your reality and take action and inspire yourself to do something new. Don't wait for inspiration. but learning how to train that action muscle and getting reality stirred up and learning how to get yourself outside of your comfort zone and move in new directions at the same time, having patience that your world, your God, will present to you exactly what it is you need to go up. This is going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Are you able to work on yourself and develop yourself, then expecting the call to that higher thing? And then, of course, if that call comes in, are you then available to move on it? Are you then available to move on it? This comes down to managing your pendulums, getting the people that are holding you back out of your life. This means setting yourself up energetically, because remember, the metaphysical explanation for money is that you find the most efficient and effective way to use your physical energy and your thought energy to fuse together into a product or a thing that your world is going to value. If the world, the people in your life, the pendulum, social media, all the different things calling to us that are noisy in this world, if those things are getting all that energy, you're not going to have enough to put towards that higher path of wealth. So it's about getting that noise to quiet down. I had to detach from family members. I had to move myself to a foreign country. I had to let go of friends, change habits, give up things like drugs and alcohol and all the different things that were creating this slow bleed of energy into all different types of directions, and then tourniquet those energetic lines, creating more energy within so I could use it to create things that were going to provide me higher paths to wealth. So that's kind of it, you guys. Long video, I know. Go back and look a second time. Take notes. I'll put my notes below. I just want to say, and it's going to be a little bit hard for me to not get emotional, because whoever is out there, if you're watching this right now, I can feel your struggle. I can feel your pain. I can feel your sense of inadequacy and you feeling outside of it. I know what it's like to be an outlier. I know what it's like to feel less than because you're focused on all the things that you are not. If anyone were to have told me 10 years ago that I would be where I am today, financially, feeling good about myself, feeling safety and comfort and security, and my cup overfloweth, I wouldn't have believed it. If someone would have told me that I'd be doing this, leading others, trying to help people with this esoteric philosophy, I wouldn't have believed it. But if anybody would have told me that today I would love myself and believe in this idea that I'm worthy of everything, and I don't mean just of financial stuff, but worthy of a beautiful romantic partner that loves me and treats me well. I mean, I was mistreated my entire life and really honestly began to believe that that was what I deserved. So to think that I have accessed a layer of reality, that I love myself, I'm worthy of the best, I'm worthy of the best treatment, I'm worthy of being heard, I'm worthy of connecting to my higher power to show me beautiful ways, liberating ways, defying the matrix in ways that I'm free and I create my own reality and provide for myself, and I'm an autonomous person. I have a partner of 6 years, but we're separate. We don't share finances and we're our own people. And I know that if something were to happen to him tomorrow, I'm going to be okay. To have that I have done it, that I have taken care of me in more ways than one and arrived at this place in space and time where I could extend something to you. God, I believe you. I believe you now. I believe I am a believer. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So I feel you. And I feel the person who's got wealth that doesn't feel good about themselves. I mean, I've seen it all. 44 years on this planet. I feel I have legitimately seen it all. I'm going to be open for all questions, comments on this video, and I will also open a thread in the Facebook group for those of you that want to carry on the conversation. This is a powerful set of ideas, and it's not going to just happen overnight, but if you make the commitment now and start walking towards that higher version of yourself, 1 year, 3 years, 7 years, 9 years, 10 years, you can look back on this and be like, God damn, I pivoted and I feel wealthy today. God wants you to have plenty. God wants your cup to overfloweth. God wants you to feel good about yourself. God wants you to feel good about money. God wants you to create your own rules. As long as you don't hurt another person, have at it. So this is my video, y'all. Spiritual capitalists, spiritual capitalism versus poverty psychology. I hope that you gained infinitely via my teachings or whatever you want to call it. And I look forward to your comments on this video. And thank you so much for entrusting me to deliver this knowledge to you. This is an honor and a pleasure, and I'm infinitely grateful in this moment. My cup overflows, guys. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all on the next round. Bye, guys.